want to go right to the names that have popped up that not only affect the Padres, but it affects fans across the game. We've seen names like Nick Pivetta and Jake Cronenworth pop up in trade rumors from legit reporters. So what do you have for us on what that could look like and what those players could bring to the table for other teams too?
Absolutely. The reason the Padres are even having these discussions is because they are in a serious payroll crunch. The Padres have said they're going to try and keep payroll around last year's level. And look, they're exploring a sale. Teams exploring sales don't raise payroll. So with that, they only have about $10 to $12 million to play with, and they have to try and fill two starting rotation spots and an everyday first base spot at minimum. So they need to clear payroll, and that's where these conversations are coming from. Jake Cronenworth is owed a little over $60 million over the next 5 years. Nick Pivetta has an opt-out after this year, but again, he's going to make about $19 million this year. So it's really just going to come down to, are the Padres going to get the kind of trade offers that allow them to fill most of their holes? They're not going to do a one-for-one trade for Nick Pivetta. It would have to be a situation where they get a major league ready young starter, another player who can help them this year, and then they can use the payroll savings to go sign another player. Jake Cronenworth as well. It's going to be a situation where they're going to be looking for multiple pieces back. So both of them are going to attract interest and have attracted interest. We just have to see if ultimately the price is met where it makes sense for the Padres to move them.
Who's a higher value sell now type of thing? Because we've heard Jake Cronenworth ever since he signed his 7-year contract. It was like they're looking to shed the entire 7 years. And I was like, Jake, I texted Jake. I'm like, did you sign it? Did you sign it with Major League Baseball or did you sign it with the Padres? So whose value is higher from where, I get it, Pivetta's making more this season, but whose value is where they're going to get the most or be able to dump more of the money is kind of what I'm asking here.
There's no question Nick Pivetta is the more valuable player. Teams always need frontline starting pitching, and Nick Pivetta took the leap last year with the Padres. He'd always had great stuff, great peripherals, but it never really worked out consistently for him. We saw long stretches of he'd look great for 6 or 7 starts, and then stretches where he would look terrible for 6 or 7 starts. Last year, he took the leap and was consistent, pitching like a frontline starter from game 1 to game 162. The tricky part with Nick Pivetta is he has an opt-out at the end of this year. So our team's going to look at him as a pitcher that really only has 1 year left on his deal because he'll realistically opt out, or are they going to look at him as a pitcher who is under contract for 3 more years, and there's always the possibility that something goes wrong and he stays in the deal. Whether teams view him as a 1-year rental versus a pitcher who does have 3 years left on his deal is going to make a huge difference in what they're willing to offer the Padres. Realistically, all things being equal, he's going to bring back more, but a lot of it's going to depend on how teams view him and his contract.
All right. The best player on that team is Fernando Tatis Jr., in my opinion. I think he's an absolute stud. Have teams gone out and tried and seen if there's a possibility of him being moved, or is he untouchable right now at this point?
Teams at this point in the year are always having conversations and reaching out, talking about any number of players. Yes, teams have reached out to the Padres to just kind of gauge where they're at. And the Padres have been definitive, both publicly and privately. They are not trading Fernando Tatis Jr. They have no interest in trading Fernando Tatis Jr. They have no intent to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. They view him as the fulcrum around which this entire team is built. They want him to be the centerpiece of the Padres in 2026, 2027, 2028, and beyond. At this juncture, there is zero chance he gets moved. Now, we'll see what happens 6 months from now, a year from now, if new ownership comes in. There's all different dynamics at play. But this offseason, he is not getting moved.
All right, well, let's go to somebody that did get moved because of free agency. Robert Suarez got moved, and he signed with the Braves. What are they getting? You watched him day in and day out. The numbers, I feel like, speak for themselves. But what are the Braves getting, and is there a chance of some regression? And if the Padres had the money, would they have re-signed them themselves?
What the Atlanta Braves are getting is a lockdown end-of-game reliever. Robert Suarez was one of the best closers in the National League each of the last 2 years, and prior to that, he was one of the best setup men in the National League for 2 years, setting up Josh Hader. He's someone that can fill both roles and not just be good at both, but dominant in both. He had a sub-3 ERA in both. Look, it's a fastball he can run up to 100, 101, 102. His changeup when he throws it is a really, really good pitch. Ice in his veins, nothing phases him. He is everything you want in a late game reliever and closer. There's a tremendous amount of mental toughness there as well. In terms of whether the Padres would have re-signed him, just given the Padres' needs, and their fundamental need for years now has been they need more impact on offense. Given the strength of their bullpen, even without Robert Suarez, they were always going to need to reallocate this money toward bringing back an impact bat. So on the one hand, you understand Robert Suarez is a tremendous talent who will give the Atlanta Braves a lockdown end-of-game option in whatever role they choose to use him in. Reports are he'll be a setup man and a backup closer to start. But for the Padres, bringing him back, just given their other needs, just never made a lot of sense. They really, really, really have to address the starting rotation and the lineup much more than the bullpen.
You glazed over it a little bit, but people think he's been a closer his entire career. Mm-hmm. The run where the Padres almost made it to the World Series and lost to the Phillies, where Bryce Harper hit the home run against him, was arguably, in my opinion, statistically, stuff plus all that stuff, his best season. Did you see a difference in Robert Suarez? Because he has never been as dominant as he was that season. Is he better in the eighth inning? Is there a difference that you saw from when he became the setup guy to the closer?
Not really. Again, he's been so good pretty much every season. You're still talking about ERAs under 3, 3 of his 4 seasons. You're still talking about strikeout rates. You're still talking about premium stuff. It's small margins. So realistically, he's someone that you feel comfortable putting in either situation. And look, yes, people are going to remember him serving up the home run to Bryce Harper. What they don't remember is Robert Suarez threw an absolutely ridiculous changeup the previous pitch that Bryce Harper held up on. It was incredible that Bryce Harper held up on that pitch. And it's more about Bryce Harper being amazing than any failures of Robert Suarez. So Robert Suarez, again, from the moment he came over from Japan, has been dominant in whatever role he's been asked to fill. And I expect that to continue with the Braves.
We have a super chat fan question. Appreciate it, from Scott Farr. He said, anyone are free to the Jays talking with the Padres for a Mason Miller deal? Barrios and Ricky Tiedemann. This is exactly what Toronto needs to take over for Jeff Hoffman. Well, even if you want to entertain that, I will step in before you even jump in and say, that ain't going to get it done.
No. Again, the Padres, just given the situation they're in, and look, AJ Preller has always been the most aggressive GM in baseball since he took over. He is someone that will talk about big packages, marquee names, tens of millions of dollars changing hands like it's nothing. A lot of the kind of trades that most presidents of baseball operations and GMs shy away from, he embraces. That said, whether you're talking about Mason Miller, Nick Pivetta, Jake Cronenworth, the Padres are not going to trade them without getting significant value back. And I'm talking multiple players who help them fill multiple holes in one fell swoop. So again, while Jose Barrios has obviously had a great career, he was also demoted from the Blue Jays rotation at the end of last year. Ricky Tiedemann has tremendous stuff. He has never stayed healthy. That's not close to what would get a Mason Miller trade done. It would have to be impact big leaguers who are controllable and cheap right now, plus top young prospects.
Yeah, I was going to go a little bit on Jake Cronenworth, but you kind of hit that one perfectly. My question to you is, you look over at the other side, the Dodgers just picked up Edwin Diaz. Padres are probably, I mean, just tell me your thoughts. And even as a guy who covers them and talks about him, like, you see something like that, what goes on through your head? Is it like, oh God, here we go again?
Look, my nearly, decade as a national writer for Baseball America and continuing to cover, league wide, you understand that the Dodgers have tremendous financial resources. They spend them wisely, which is something a lot of other teams with tremendous financial resources cannot say. And they draft and develop incredibly well. Again, the Dodgers have been the beasts of the NL West for over a decade now. You know that they are a force. You're going to have to deal with them at some point if you are attempting to compete in the National League. So on the one hand, yes, you see them sign Edwin Diaz and you go, yep, they just added another superstar. At the end of the day, though, that's kind of the MO for them, and you just understand that's how they operate. That's what you have to deal with if you're a team trying to compete with them in the National League. Now it's just about trying to make your roster the best it can possibly be so that you have a shot to maybe beat the Dodgers in a short series in the playoffs. That's really where you have to get them, trying to beat them over a 162-game season. Look, Almost no one has done it in the NL West since 2013. The only team to do it was the Giants in 2021 when the Dodgers won 106 games that year. So you understand that in order to take down the Dodgers, it's more about building a team that can hopefully catch them in a short series, because doing so over 162, look, the facts are no one's been able to really do it consistently for over a decade.
Hey, Kyle, last one for you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, EK.
How about the manager situation? Craig Stammen's obviously everybody hears, Manny Machado is like, oh, we love this guy. Everybody's come out and said we love this guy. But I feel like that was kind of said about Schilt too until Schilt was out. So is this more of a, okay, Craig Stammen's going to work because he's already worked with AJ Preller? It's clearly the AJ Preller effect of the drama that comes with it and, his constant hovering over. But this Craig Stammen thing, is there tangible wins and improvements from a Craig Stammen hiring?
So Craig Stammen and Mike Shildt are two very, very different personality types. And I think it's important to point out Mike Shildt did work in the Padres front office and working a couple different roles before taking over as manager. So in terms of Craig Stammen, the pluses are he is a tremendous communicator. He is someone that took on a leadership role in the Padres clubhouse for years, especially during COVID. He really was the spokesperson for the team in a time of great uncertainty. He is a natural leader in a lot of ways, has all the personality traits you look for, as well as the baseball mind. At the same time, a first-year manager, there are going to be things that you have to learn on the fly, especially when you have never coached or managed at any level of professional baseball. Mike Shildt was an established manager in the big leagues who had years and years and years as a coach and manager throughout the minors. He didn't have the learning curve that Craig Stammen is going to have. So there's no question there are going to be some things early on, especially that might not be the smoothest just in terms of game strategy, bullpen decisions, but the hope is Craig Stammen, being as humble as he is, as smart as he is, that he will figure it out quickly enough that it doesn't hurt the Padres for any considerable amount of time as they attempt to make the playoffs for the 5th time in 7 seasons.